Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching the Book Tracking. In today's video, I'm bringing to you 10 underhyped books which I think many more people should read because all of them are really good and I've not seen many booktubers or bookstagrammers or book reviewers recommending these books enough on the internet. So I do think all these 10 books which I'm bringing to you today in this video are very much worth reading. Some of them are big, but I'm sure that the time you'll spend reading them will be very much worth it. Also, if I have dedicated reviews for any of the books that I'm talking about today, all of them will be linked down in the description. You can go and check them out if you're interested. At the end of the video, if you intend to buy any of these books, consider buying them from the affiliate links which I provided below because they will help me support running this channel. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. The first book is something which I read in March, and if you've been following me from March, I'm sure that you might have seen me recommending this book many times in the channel already, and I'm sure that I'll be recommending it even more in the future. And I'm talking about Prey by Michael Crichton. This is a sci-fi book and it is a bit old, which was released in the early 2000s, but I can definitely say this is one of those books which is totally underhyped because I have not seen anyone else except me in the internet talking about this one. There might be other people, but I have definitely not seen anyone talking about this one at all, and I do think this requires a lot more praise. Okay, it is about this group of nano robots that are developed by a company, and because of some things which happen in their research laboratory, a swarm of these nanorobots actually go missing and they start reproducing and multiplying in huge numbers. The bad thing about these nanorobots is that they are super intelligent and their AI is very well developed. If you're a person who's new to reading science fiction stories, I'd highly recommend this one. One thing which I like about this one a lot more is that the author brings about a conversation between himself and the reader who's reading the book. It might feel like info dumps at certain times because the author is explaining each and everything that he's talking about, because the things that he's talking about are a bit high-tech if you ask me. But in order to make the reader feel even more comfortable and even more used to the things that he's laying out in the story, he gives us all that information and it is definitely worth reading. The next one I'm recommending is a historical fiction which I read in 2020, and it is one of my favorite books from 2020 as well. And I'm talking about The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gower. This book is set in the last few years of the 1700s and in the beginning of the 1800s. In the story, we follow an old merchant named John Hancock, and during one of his tradings, he gets this stuffed mermaid which he has to keep because of some things that happened during the trading. Using that stuffed mermaid, it's not even alive, he goes and displays it in many menageries and shows. So because of all these things, many people get interested in looking at that mermaid and they are paying the man for that. So he earns a lot of money just by displaying that mermaid alone. He is one character, and the second main character of the story is this prostitute named Angelica. How these two characters, who are totally different from each other, starting from age to the professions and the way in which they live their lives are so different from each other, meet each other and how their lives get intertwined. That's the entire story of this one. Though the name of the book says that it is The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock, rather than the mermaid, these two main characters, John Hancock and Angelica, are the two main focuses of the story, and their life, which has a lot of peaks and valleys, is the center focus throughout the book. Next, we have a historical fantasy. I can say that it is kind of an urban fantasy also, because we shift in between our reality and a fantastical world continuously, and I'm talking about The Kingdom of Back by Marissa. Now, this is one book I've seen many people talking on the internet, but not great reviews for this one, because most people go in with wrong expectations for this one, because since it's a historical fantasy, most people expect the reality of history to be portrayed in this one, but the fantasy element of the book is something which is even more strong, and also it is a very sad book. Okay, so if you go in thinking to get a very mystical and whimsical story, you will get that, but it will be sad. The main character in this book is the elder sister of Wolfgang Mozart, who's a musical prodigy, though his sister was also nearly as talented as him. Because of the misogyny that was depicted during that period in the world, she was not well recognized and talked about at all. This book is kind of an ode from Marissa to that particular character and how she is depicted, how she cares for her family and especially for her brother. All those things are woven together in this one really beautifully. The Kingdom of Back is actually an imaginary place that the brother and sister have imagined together for themselves in order to escape from the reality. It is a sad book, but the character of Marianne Mozart as well as the world of the Kingdom of Back are things that are very much worth reading in this one. Next, we have a Scandinavian crime thriller novel, and it is also the first book in a trilogy. It was supposed to be a 10-book long series, but because of the death of the author, the series had to stop in the third book itself. I've read the first 2 books in the series. I've not read the last one alone. I'm talking about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. In this book, we follow this incredibly genius hacker named Lisbeth Salander, who's actually the girl with the dragon tattoo. More than anything, one thing which will drive you to read this book continuously will be the crime element of the story and the discoveries that are being done in that particular case continuously, and also this very strong character of the girl with the dragon tattoo, that is Lisbeth Salander herself. She has faced a lot of horrible things in her life, in the past itself, and in the present also. It's not so good. Okay, it's still horrible, yet she persists and makes her way through all the things that she is put through. Rather than a character examination, it is also a really well put together story. The character interactions that we get in this one, it is a love-hate kind of relationship that we see throughout this book, yet all those things are not the main focus. The main character in the story and this entire plot which is put forward to us will just make us gape a lot and expect a lot more, turning the pages continuously. The next one is a fantasy series. It is a sci-fantasy, which is a subcategory of fantasy in which science fiction is also added inside the category of fantasy itself. And I'm talking about Northern Lights, or The Golden Compass, which is the first book in the His Dark Materials trilogy. I've read this one alone. I've not finished the second 2 books in the series, which I plan to read pretty soon. This is definitely something which is very friendly for beginners, and it doesn't matter what age range you are in. I'd highly recommend anyone who's above 12 or 13 years old to read this. Okay, you can be 12 or 13, or you can even be 100 years in age. I'm sure that there will be something which you'll enjoy about the story. It is something which encompasses all the age ranges. It feels friendly for kids, but it doesn't feel childish for adults. All those things about this one make it a very reliable read for everyone, if you ask me. Also, the world that this author has built and the relationships that he provides between human beings and animals as their souls is something which is very peculiar to this one, and I'm sure the various intricacies that the author has added to this world and this series as a whole makes this book a really good one to read about. I've not seen a lot many people reading this book. Also, if you end up finishing this series, there's also a HBO show in the name of the trilogy itself, which is His Dark Materials. 2 seasons of the show are already out. I think they are based on the first and second books. I've read the first book and watched the first season alone. It is something which is very true to the books and perfectly depicted, if you ask me. They don't deviate from the plot of the book at all. So definitely, if you read this one, you can also watch a show. So try reading it. The next one is another one of my favorites from 2020. Actually, it was one of my anticipated reads for the last year, and after reading it, I'm sure that this book is famous and many people do talk about it, but I don't think enough people read it, and it is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a literary fiction in which we see this woman named Vanessa and her story. She's 31 now, and we switch between the past and present, in which the past is 2000 and the present is 2017. And while she was in high school in 2000, she was in this romantic relationship with one of her teachers, and then it seemed like a very romantic relationship, and everything that she did for him and he did for her seemed to be something which came out of love. But now there are some allegations which are coming under the name of the same teacher, and that makes Vanessa think about everything that happened during those years in her high school. Because of the things that happened during that time also, she has a lot of trauma and effects of trauma that she feels even after these 17 years. It is a very strongly written book. Okay, so I definitely not recommend this one. Anyone who's not an adult. Only if you are an adult that is 18 plus and you have the strength to take in very strong and dark content, I'd suggest this one. It has a lot of trigger warnings, especially because of the age difference and the physical relationship between the 2 main characters. But this is definitely one book I think everyone who's an adult in the society needs to read and has to have discussions on, because the ending provided by the author is so open. Okay, it's one of the perfect ways to end the story, and I liked it a lot. The next one in this list is a recent read, and I've already filmed my review for this one. If it is not out already, do look out for it, or if it is published, I'll provide the link in the description, as I've said before. And it is Lone Wolf by Jodi Picoult. This is another literary fiction, but I think you can consider it as a thriller also, because we solve a case or a mystery throughout this book. Now, the book starts with an accident in which a father and daughter are involved, and because of this accident, the daughter has suffered a very critical shoulder injury and the father has gone into a coma. There is a very less probability that he'll get back to his original life, and so the doctors advise that it would be better to let him go and pull the plug. That is to put his life to an end by cutting off the oxygen supply. But this daughter and her elder brother, who's the son, they have different opinions. The son just wants to be right for his father and relieve him from his pain in the terms of mercy, but the daughter doesn't want him to. Both these characters have very concrete reasons behind what has to happen, and that's the thing which actually propels the plot. It is really well written, and if you're a person who likes to well written characters and very complex plots, this will be one which you'll be loving a lot. Next one is a non-fiction book, and This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. This is the memoir of the author from the 10 years of his life while he was a practitioner of medicine, that is, he was a doctor. And after those 10 years, he gave up his career as a doctor and moved on to different fields, one of which is writing and publishing. After reading this book, I should say that I have a heightened sense of empathy for doctors, especially during these tough times, okay? We all are safe because of the work that these doctors do. Even during normal days, these are people who deal with death on a daily basis. Though they don't face death face to face, they witness death in a daily basis, and that is something which is very hard to see, right? Even when we see some people who has died, it does put up a lot of sadness into our minds, but doctors are people who have to deal with it as a daily thing that they see as a part of their routine. It is really tough, okay? All those tough things that doctors experience despite the amount of money that they are paid for their profession is really well portrayed in this one. And some plight also which they will not be able to share with others who are not part of their profession is put into this one. And I can say, if you read this one, you'll have a lot more respect for doctors for the things that they do to us despite the amount of money that we pay to them, because we pay for life, we don't just pay for treatment, and they have to deal with seeing death and experiencing it around them on a very daily and continuous basis. All those things just made this book a really good one for me, and I do think many people have to read this, especially during these times. The next one is the first book in an adult political fantasy series, and it is The City of Brass by S.J. Chakraborty. This is the first book in the Devabad trilogy, so there are only 3 books totally. I've read the first one alone. All the 3 books are out now, but I have not read them yet. We follow the story of this young con artist named Nahri in Cairo, and she has this ability built in herself that she can easily heal the wounds of others as well as hers physically just by using her touch and her intentions. Also, she has the knowledge of many languages which she doesn't know how she learnt. While she's doing a ritual during one of her cons, she accidentally summons up a jinn, and she gets whisked into this world or the city called Devabad by this jinn, and there are multiple revelations that we see about her history and her character as a whole, and it is very politically driven, okay? The world building, this one is top notch. The writing is very gorgeous. This is a book which you have to read slowly and soak up and enjoy totally, because it is so rich, so political and well drawn out. So I'd highly recommend anyone who likes to read such kind of books to read this one. The last book that I'm recommending today is my most favorite book that I read in 2018. It is the first book in a sci-fi trilogy, and I'm talking about Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I've read the first 2 books only. The first one is Renegades and the second one is Arch Enemies. The third one is Supernova. I have not read that one alone. Now, in this one, Renegades, we have 2 different sets of people with superpowers. The protagonists of this world are called the Renegades, and the antagonists of this world are the Anarchists. The Anarchists are anti-heroes and the Renegades are heroes, to be even more simple in terms. And we have our main character named Nova, who's a part of the Anarchists, and she infiltrates into the Renegades and becoming one of the Renegades and trying to bring them down from within. But because of some things that happen without her own complete knowledge itself, she starts having feelings for this renegade called Aegean, who also has a double life. So this romantic dynamic as well as the cool world that is built by the author of this one makes you flip the pages continuously. It is a big book, over 500 pages long, but I'm sure that it is very fast paced and you will definitely enjoy reading it the whole time. So yes guys, those were the 10 underhyped books which I think many more people need to read. And if you have read any of these books, don't forget to comment your opinions of them in the comments below, so that others who have not read them as well as I who has read them can read them and discuss further on. And if you did enjoy this video and found it useful in some way or the other, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel, because I publish new videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.